Yeah, that's right, Amai. Show them how you're the main character of this show. Eh? What about the girl in pink? We opened on... Well, that didn't take long. But yeah, all the town's noodle makers were setting up shop for a festival where everyone could sample their products. Of course, Ron's family was also participating, so the eldest daughter called in her friends to give their seals of approval. And in a surprisingly subtle bit of visual storytelling, I know it's so rare in the show because of a certain someone who can't shut up, Amane hesitated stepping into the restaurant, likely recalling her time as Gentle and how Ron was one of her biggest victims. Granted, it's a little late in the game for this sort of stuff, as we've moved pretty far from that botched arc, but it wasn't unwelcome either. However, that was all quickly overshadowed by a member of the Country Bears. This is Lamaza! Actually, for those who don't know, this is Kumamoto. No, not that one. Or that one. Seriously, how did the localizations end up using that name twice, and it wasn't the original name both times? But yeah, this is the mascot for the Kumamoto prefecture that has garnered quite the name and popularity for itself, to the point that it earned 29.3 billion yen in merchandise revenue back in 2012. As a result, Monokuma's cousin here has appeared in anime and games like Yokai Watch, Card Fight Vanguard, and yes, even previously in Precure in the Kumamoto movie at the center of a bunch of other Japanese bear mascots. Allegedly, this bear's popularity was because of its simplistic, yet cute design, though personally, I think like Funashi, it came down more to the memes, and how many of its suit actors tended to be more chaotic evil.
I'm not touching that with a 60-foot pole. Next caller.
Night Kid, of course, as I do find this mascot very charming, especially when he just so happens to come from the prefecture of my ancestors. All that said, I do have to point out one thing. Why are y'all serving that bear first, and yet not the panda who's been sitting there all season? Y'all racist or something? And as for why Kumamoto was there, well, he just so happened to be really good old friends with Ron's dad.
Shut up, dear furry!
However, their enjoyment of their soupy noodles would quickly be cut short when the fairies Ron had collected revealed that they were worried about the udon fairy of their town. Mint had seemingly gone missing, and its absence made the fairies sad, which on top of giving us more of that annoying crying, also resulted in a gentle-esque effect of making the respective foods go kind of bad. Okay, this is an interesting little development. I mean, for one thing, it makes a lot of sense, as when they are captured, the bundle boxes do seem to lower the fairies' morale to the point of tears, like this situation. And we could also assume that the boxes were amplifying the negative effects, as while the food quality did drop, it wasn't nearly as inedible as, say, when Gentle captured them. Granted, I do highly doubt they'll use this plot point again in this series, but at least it's some bit of world building. Anyway, the udon fairy at least hadn't been captured by the bundles, which I'm sure isn't going to be a flag for later events in this episode, so our heroine split up and... But yeah, all of this was especially stressful for Ron, who didn't want to see her family, or even their competition, get some bad rep because of all of this, and... Oh, come on! It hasn't even been a minute since the last one. You know what? Put 2 on there. Elsewhere, Kokone tried to cheer up the fairies. Running out of time, and with few other options, Memdragon decided to pull a desperation move, which first involved them going to an udon restaurant and ordering a couple of bowls. Shouldn't that have been one of the first things y'all did? Well, the fairy didn't appear, but Memdragon got what he needed to perform an udon reading, using the soup base as a catalyst, which turned it black and red. I don't know, maybe Cobra captured it? No, of course, it turned out to be that one thing that just so happened to be paying Toei a little extra for the publicity. Sure enough, it turned out to be right on the money, as the Udon Fairy had decided to take a rather extended nap on the mascot's head. Well, episode over, may as well roll the credits, as I'm sure nothing bad is gonna happen. Nah, of course, they can't do that. twice in a row. The monster of the week was a garlic press that could also crush rocks that just so happened to look like them, though I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to put the whole bulb in, dude. But yeah, what made this fight a little different was the fact that Ron was handicapped because her partner used a high-level spell that drained his MP. This led to a nice moment where Ron reassured her partner that he had done the right thing, because really, what else could he have done to figure out that the fairy was sleeping on their show's sponsor? Still good stuff, and unlike what Yui's grandma quotes, at least the food reference here of noodles and soup needing each other to be complete made sense. With that, Ron and Memdragon pulled a trick right out of Digimon 02 to take out their enemy. Golden News! And the episode ended with the troublesome Udon rejoining its friends and, some more last-minute Kumamoto.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
Well, this episode was at least better than last week's, which I do honestly mean, even if it is kinda by default. As always, I do appreciate at least some world building that establishes some unusual challenges that our protagonists might have to deal with, in this case, making sure that their fairy friends are happy. And hey, at least Ron and Memdragon managed to do something this week. It does annoy me that we got this mostly out of a filler episode from a secondary writer, but hey, praise where it's due. As said multiple times throughout these reviews, one of my biggest criticisms of the show has been its aggravating lack of stakes. That's still very much an issue with the overarching plot, but at least for this episode, there was some sense of urgency. Best of all, it was coming from something kind of unexpected, and yet also made perfect sense. The food fairies and their effect on their respective dishes has always been kind of vague and kind of lacking in explanation, so it's always interesting to learn something new, like how it doesn't matter if the bundles hadn't captured them, any negative feelings can have an effect on their corresponding foods. Kinda makes me think these things are the real villains, and we should somehow sever the ties with their foods, but that's just me. Anyway, it was especially nice to see the Noodle Duel take things a little more seriously, as both have been kind of neglected, especially Memdragon, who outside of his debut, hasn't really done anything, even though he seems to be the second strongest fairy partner after Komikome. Pom Pom is just there to be pompous. But yeah, it led to some decent character drama for both of them, as they were at the center of the conflict, and yet ultimately managed to work things out thanks to their determination and quick thinking. Thus, as a spotlight episode for the two, it was well done and much needed. However, this episode still had the usual issues of this series. The narrator literally couldn't go a minute without her usual needless exposition. Takumi was completely absent from this episode, maybe he was busy with a better show.
We came to farm.
And the main plot remained stagnant. Seriously, there was a bundle lair scene that we didn't really bring up because even the characters themselves acknowledged that they were just kind of spinning their wheels at this point. Still, overall, this was one of the better filler episodes, as at least they built up a few things. Whether they'll stick like a wet noodle or not remains to be seen, but at least we got some more Ursa representation in this show. Yeah, by the way, do check out Kumamoto's official channel, as it has some great content featuring that bear and his dead-eyed stare. If you haven't seen it yet, we made a little intro video for the next series we'll cover bi-weekly on Wednesdays after PPGZ wraps up. I think Tante Opera Milky Holmes is going to be a fun little series to cover, and a nice little change of pace from all of the safer toy shows that we've done so far. Granted, it might be a little bit of a pain when dealing with some of YouTube's censorship policies, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And until next time though, farewell for now my friends, and hey Ultraman, that bear isn't a kaiju!